Welcome to Downforce Debrief. We are recording only hours after the Grand Prix, and we've got a spicy one today. We're going to be looking at the Spanish Grand Prix in detail, of course, and we're also going to touch on F1 25 as obviously key part of mine and Alex's roles in the background. But firstly, touching on the race, I want to say straight off the bat, I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. Solid 8 out of 10 for me. Really, really enjoyed it. We finally had a mix of strategies. Red Bull doing a 3-stop. We'll come on to the safety car and all the incidents and obvious Verstappen controversy in a little bit. But yeah, Alex, what do you think?
What did I think of the race? What is my race rating? I think Max Verstappen is an absolute loser, is what I think about that race. I'm still not over it. I'm sorry. I'm just not. What is that? The amount of names I was calling him watching that live, honestly, like. I don't care about the race rate. I want to talk about Max. What is that? What is that? Now, I enjoyed Nico Rosberg's commentary, literally like saying it as he saw it, like no sitting on the fence business. I quite enjoyed that, although it was maybe a bit extreme for a casual viewer, but fine. But there's some people saying it was a purposeful, purposefully tried to hit him, take him out, whatever, dangerous drive. I don't think he intended to hit him. I want to be clear, but he clearly was very annoyed at the race, slowed down, and then just dive bombed him. It's just immature. It's proper bad loser, immature. You know what I mean? Literally, just go to anger management classes, bro. Seriously, what is that? Honestly, I was really wound up by it. I know a lot of people were too. I'm not over it. It's now been about 4 or 5 hours since the race. I'm not over it. I'm so annoyed about it.
Honestly, for viewers and listeners, we make rough notes for these podcasts. We planned to touch on Verstappen in a short while, and Alex has gone straight in full passion.
Yeah, we literally worked on the notes together, put him third place in the order, and I'm like, nah, get me to Verstappen straight. Oh, it's the big talking point though, right? Come on, man. Yeah. What did you think? Yeah. Come on, Max.
I loved Rosberg's take on it. I think normally Crofty and also Brandel, they do play it a bit too safe sometimes. I really, really liked that Rosberg gave a fair analysis of turn one. And I don't want to focus on the 10-second penalty part. I want to focus on the catalyst of what happens. Okay. Obviously, Russell almost did a Verstappen-style move into turn one. He's obviously on much better tyres, so he's always going to make that move. And I almost reversed the roles of if Russell's on hard tyres, Verstappen's behind. Verstappen is always going for that move, firstly. Russell makes a mistake in the dirty area of Leclerc, has a snap of oversteer, and that causes contact with Max, so not Max's fault. Max, as a result, gets pushed off the track. Now, Max doesn't back down. He keeps his position running off the track and into turn two. So at that point, Red Bull come on the radio and they're like, right, give the position back. We since found out after the race, I don't know if you saw this, I believe the FIA did say that they would not have they would not have told Max to cede position. So Red Bull made a mistake there, but you can understand why they did it with the potential penalty ramifications, because if he did get that penalty, bearing in mind there had just been a safety car, he would have lost way more than he would gain from that one position. So I do sympathize with Red Bull a little bit. Max, though, my God, just lost his head. I'm shocked and I'm not shocked at that reaction. I think it's Verstappen's never changed with that. He's always kind of, what you see is what you get with Max, isn't it? But I'm still surprised as well, because I just would think as a 4-time world champion with as much, he's had experiences of all different types of races at this point. I'm still surprised that he lost his head that easily and then just used his car to just ram Russell. Crazy.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting what you're saying there about the turn one stuff, because I was actually really surprised to see this be no action. I was more on Red Bull's side of that should be a penalty, because by the rules, right, if you overtake up the inside, you have to get your front axle to their mirror, which he clearly did. He was clearly alongside enough. And so by the racing rules, he didn't have to leave Max room because he was that far. I don't agree with the rules, but fine, that is the rules. But apparently because he then had a slide, it was he didn't, it was naughty for him to shove Max off, basically. So Max was then legal to go on the off track and retain the position. Which doesn't make any sense to me. If Russell purposefully shoved him off track, Max would have been in the wrong to stay ahead. But because Russell accidentally shoved him off track by sliding, suddenly Max is okay to stay ahead. This just seems backwards to me, like absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
But honestly, I'm not upset with it because at the end of the day, that decision was the right decision. But regardless of the rules, he's gone for a move, he slid, he shoved another driver off track who was slightly ahead of him. Honestly, I do think the outcome was right. But by the rules, I'm a bit confused by that. But yeah, I just thought all this revengeful stuff, this rage-induced stuff was behind Max now. Like, honestly, he and I still think he is the greatest driver in F1 right now, and it's not close. Like, he is the best by far. That's been clear over the last few years. Like, genuinely, he's cementing his name as one of the greatest of all time because he's that good at the moment. But, like, you know, we've seen this from him in the past. Why is this coming back right now? Like, what? How did he lose his head that hard? And that was mainly because he had hard tyres and made the mistake in the final corner trying to push too hard on those hard tyres and slid. And I just, how does he lose his head that badly when he's that good at doing the things he's doing in that car, having won a few championships now? Like, before he won a championship, you kind of go, all right, he's a bit desperate. But now, bro, calm down. Mad, wasn't it?
It's a tough one because it's kind of, it's Max. You know, we talk about Imola, for example. We talk about that incredible overtake into turn one and many of his other amazing overtakes, and just how aggressive he is and how he uses that to his advantage. I guess you'd argue that's, you know, he's never going to change that, because if he was a lot calmer and didn't lose his head today, he also wouldn't be that same aggressive driver that we know in other scenarios. So it kind of just is Max, isn't it? And yeah, I think now, touching on the penalty, I don't understand how they could possibly give that a 10-second. By the book, he caused a collision, yes. But come on, we spoke about it at length for the Monaco podcast last week about Russell track limits getting a drive-through because there was a bit of common sense applied about, you know, the scenario that they're in. Surely at this point, show a bit of common sense. You can see that he has purposely let Russell through and then just dived up the inside. No lockup, nothing. We unfortunately, I didn't see his onboard. I'm not even sure if we were released and Red Bull gave us that. But when I watched a breakdown of it, there was nothing to suggest that Max made a mistake. It was obvious that he just let Russell through and then rammed right into him on purpose. And he also didn't deny that afterwards. It was quite a spicy interview. I don't know if you saw it with Rachel in the Sky paddock, but Rachel basically said along the lines of, "You're such an amazing driver. It's, you know, do you think it's a shame that these kind of incidents takes a shine off for you know, the kids watching at home?" And Max was really, like, you know, he's quite tense being asked that question. It's a fair play to her, as a ballsy question, and he basically just responded with, like, he just said, well, if that's what you think, then let's leave it there. You know, he didn't. It was classic Max response. He didn't deny that he did it on purpose. And it's just, I do agree. It's a shame. It's like I just said, that's Max. I don't think he's ever going to change with that. I think we're going to get that until the end of his career. But it does unfortunately taint what is an unbelievable driver. You know, I would say no driver is perfect, but if you could somehow iron that out of Max's driving, I think he, you know, he's, where else has he got faults? You know, he's unbelievable. So I mean, yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame to see it.
To put it simply, Max is a terrible role model. He just is. Like, that sort of stuff is just, you don't want to see any other racing driver do something similar. You don't want to encourage young drivers to do that coming up. You don't want to encourage anybody to take revengeful action in some way like that, or, you know, throw your toys out the pram that hard. It's not inspirational behavior. I don't think every world champion needs to be the most inspirational driver in the world to kids and whatever, but, like, that's just so far off. And it's the sort of thing that should stop you winning championships. If you're doing that sort of thing, I mean, look, he just finished P10 after the penalty when he should have been, I mean, maybe still on the podium if he didn't have that slide. Okay, let Leclerc go, maybe fourth. Worst case scenario, fifth is where he crossed the line. So, like, that sort of thing is what costs you over a championship. You know, have a couple of those, you cost yourself, you know, 30, 40 points across the season. That's normally enough to cost yourself a championship. Obviously, we know how he's just so far a step above, and he's had cars that are so far a step above that he's a champion. And don't get me wrong, he is a deserving champion. But this sort of driving is just outrageous. And I actually really like Nico Rosberg's kind of take on it. He was basically saying, like, that should be a black flag. Like, he just straight up said, like, black flag, which means instant disqualification. Like, literally, what you have done is so far unacceptable. We want you out of the race right now. We're not going to take you to the steward's room. Get out of the race. Get out of our sight, which is the most extreme penalty you can possibly give someone. And that is a bit extreme. Obviously, that's a bit extreme. There's a reason that black flag is basically never shown in F1 because F1's such a professional sport. But it's not that far off it. Like, the thing is, like I said, I don't think he did mean to hit him. He didn't mean to smash him off the track, whatever else. But, like, it wasn't that far off it. And the fact that we're saying that means that the 10-second penalty was surely massively lenient. I mean, he still got 1 point from it. If you give him a harsher penalty, he only loses 1 point, whatever. It doesn't make a big difference to the race. But
I think this was what I wanted to ask you, Alex, is that I agree. I completely agree about the DSQ because I tweeted as a knee-jerk reaction at the time, that's a Stonewall DSQ. But actually, on reflection, once emotions had calmed down a bit, I was a bit like, DSQ is harsh still. I don't know. It's borderline. Like, I wouldn't be upset or surprised if that was a black flag. But I guess the question is, 10 seconds is clearly not enough. What would you penalise? What would you give?
It's got to be at least a drive-through. At least a drive-through. Honestly, I think that should be a stop-go. We so rarely see proper stop-goes these days where you have to come into the pits separately from pit stop in the grid box for X number of seconds, and then go again. I think a 5-second stop and go. I honestly think that needs to be, because it's like, okay, Max is setting as he has done a little bit throughout his career, he's setting a new bad precedent. So let's correct that by coming down like a ton of bricks on it and going, no, that is unacceptable. We do not want to see that ever again. Because at the end of the day, the simple fact of the matter is he slowed down to allow a driver pass and then caused a collision with him, which is like awful. Like, that's so bad. So 10 seconds. I mean, come on. We're giving penalties like that out all the time to just, really minor accidental racing incidents. I'm not well, clearly they're not racing incidents if they're a 10, but do you know what I mean? Like, just normal racing stuff. Sometimes it doesn't go your way. You get a penalty, whatever. These things happen in racing, but you can't give a normal penalty to that. It has to be more. Again, I don't think it was on purpose. I don't think he meant to hit him, but it was still very revengeful, very clearly rage-induced. I think a 10-second, 5-second stop-go to really come down like a ton of bricks and be like, do not do that again. If anyone does that, they are going to get a severe penalty that will completely ruin their race. I mean, do you agree? With hindsight now, you calm down.
I want GP to tell it to Max like that over the radio, like he's been like a bad dog.
Tell him off. Do not do that again. Naughty, bad Max.
Stay. I think I reflected back to the 2017 incident with Hamilton and Vettel at Baku. If you remember that one, under safety car, and Vettel just pulled alongside and swiped him into the side. And I remember at the time I was really annoyed at that. And the stewards rightfully gave it a 10-second stop-go penalty. And I think today was the right punishment for me. I think the question is whether the stewards deemed it intentional, because obviously all they gave was causing a collision, which is technically what happens. So it's whether the stewards then kind of took that a step further and deemed that it was intentional what he did or not. But if they did deem it intentional and they still gave a 10-second penalty, then that's horrendous. And for me, it was a Stonewall 10-second stop go. So,
yeah, I think if he didn't just let him pass directly before that corner, I think a 10-second penalty is probably fair. Like, he's, again, let's pretend Max was behind at the start of the lap. He's gone for a dive bomb. He's gone a bit too deep. He's made contact. Like, these things happen sometimes when you go for overtakes, but ultimately he went too deep. He did cause the collision. 10-second penalty. I think that's honestly fair because it's a misjudged overtake. But when you add in the fact that you don't just let him pass, it's just so almost purposeful. It's really, it's revengeful, it's conceited, it's bad. Yeah. So I got off very lightly, but he is now on 11 of 12 penalty points, which means if he basically does anything else, I think the next 2 races, if he does anything else, he will get a race ban, which is obviously ginormous. And honestly, I kind of want it to happen just because Max would be so annoyed. Can you imagine how raging to be at that? Especially as he's like somewhat in championship contention, not as much as he was before Spain, but still. But also, even on top of that, I think he drops 2 penalty points after Austria, I want to say, something like that. But then after that, he's still got like 9 penalty points until like October. So if he does something else that gives him 3 penalty points between now and October, he gets a race ban. So he's really, really risking it. But that's right. Let's be honest, that's right. Like he's done a few things that have been a bit dodged. So I'm not. I think the penalty system is working correctly. But can you imagine giving a championship contender race ban? I don't
remember the last time that's happened from penalty points alone. It's pretty crazy.
No, wasn't it? One of the Haas drivers, was it like Magnussen or someone that got one, and they had to get a reserve in like a season or two ago. It wasn't that long ago, but it's never happened to a championship contender. So
yeah. But on that note, actually, obviously, it's worth touching on the fact that all the talk, especially from us as well, going into this weekend, was about Flexi wings and how will that affect McLaren and the like. And of course, you mentioned Verstappen being a championship contender. He absolutely is. That maybe that also factored in a little bit some of his frustration today, because I think it was after qualifying. There was a point in an interview at some part of the weekend where he just seemed a bit deflated and almost like he just accepted that he was going to be the third quickest driver in the championship now because McLaren are so fast. So almost, maybe some desperation creeped in, but yeah, I think it's not looking good for Max and Red Bull, is it? From just forget about the penalty and everything, just a performance perspective, McLaren were clear today. They were extremely quick. Maybe we'll still get tracks where it can change. We've obviously touched on the whole, where McLaren are finding their performance from, rear limited tracks, etc. So maybe we'll still get some where Red Bull are very quick and Max can challenge for wins. But yeah, it's if you're a Red Bull or Max fan, you're probably not too optimistic right now, I imagine.
I disagree. I think the gap in qualifying was as big as it has been because my goat, Piastri, managed to absolutely smash it. But in the race, I know Max went for a different strategy, but the fact that he went for a 3-stop, he was stopping the whole extra time than McLaren's, even though before he stopped, he was behind McLaren's. It's not like he was leading. So he started behind the McLaren's, then went for a 3-stop, and yet McLaren were really worried about him. I don't see it as clean cut as you that it's GG's, McLaren are too dominant, whatever. I do agree. I think Max was up to this point was pinning his hopes on the Flexi rule change to be like, right, I need to score every single point I possibly can because when we get to Spain, we're going to be back on par with McLaren because of the Flexi being changed, which, as you say, didn't pan out at all. I think technically the two that we called out previously that were supposedly gaining the most on Flexi wings, McLaren and Mercedes, didn't actually, on paper, have a front wing update this weekend because the teams now have to release on, is it Thursday before the race weekend, their updates. They have to write them down in black and white. This is what we changed on the car. They didn't list front wing, but you only have to list something there if the geometry of the wing changes. And so basically what they did is they stiffened the wing, but the actual shape of the wing was exactly the same. So technically it wasn't a front wing update according to that document. But in reality, they stiffened the wing. And actually they did show a front wing cam of McLaren during the race. And I could see visually that wing was bending much less than it used to. So all the teams have changed. In fact, Hamilton came out and straight up said, this was just such a waste of money. Every team has had to change their front wing, and what's it done? Absolutely. What is the point in that? And I completely, with hindsight now, I completely agree with him. We were all going, it's gonna shake up the order, and McLaren have said all along it's not going to do much. And apparently they ran this wing in free practice 1 in Imola. They sort of were like, it's there's a small difference, and the drivers have also come out to say, from different teams, they've come out to say, there's a bit more oversteer in high speed now, but we just adjust the setup based on that. It's just a slight balance change is all it really is. Every team's adapted to it so well that it's just been a complete nothing burger. So all that hype that we gave, we spoke about it in about 4 different episodes, I reckon, GP. It was literally made no difference. If you didn't know it was happening, you wouldn't have known it was happening. There was nothing, there was no evidence at all, was there, on the results?
I tell you what though, if you'd have told me a few weeks ago when we were hyping up about this, that Spain would be a banger race, I would be like, oh my God, Flexi Wings is going to make such a difference. It's going to be crazy. It didn't at all, but it was the tyres. And this, I want to stress, this is a track where just compare Oscar and Lando. Lando couldn't get close to Oscar, not because of a pace difference, because they were very similar pace, but dirty air is so significant. As soon as you got an equal car performance and similar tyre wear, you can see the racing is just so dead. But yet we got an absolute banger race because finally we've got tyres that just weren't that great, meaning we had 2 stops, 3 stops. There was so much uncertainty. And before that safety car came out, which in my opinion was the cherry on top, the race was a solid like 7.5 out of 10 for me. I really, really enjoyed it. And I just thought that, because I was thinking to myself watching it, like, there were overtakes more around the midfield part and obviously with the offset of strategies. But at the front, there wasn't really much going on. The difference was, and again, thanks and respect to Red Bull's strategy team, we just had teams and drivers able to try different things. So although we weren't getting, overtakes at the front and spicy moments like that, we were getting spicy moments for strategies. We were glued to the Delta. I don't know about you, Alex, but I was very much like concentrated fully every lap by lap on deltas, on strategies, on everything going on across the grid. And it was fantastic. And then, the safety car at the end with everything just spiced it up even more. So, I'm really happy that we got that race today at Spain specifically, because today was a lesson that we actually don't need the best tracks for racing. We do just need the right circumstances and environment through tires, through car performance, through a multitude of variables to allow this type of racing. So, what did you think?
I completely agree. I feel like for me though, it wasn't a sort of banger race. Like this is exactly what we've been calling for over the last couple of episodes, and everyone's been calling it for a long time. Let's make the tires so that 2 stops are the norm, 1 stop is exceptional, 3 stop is possible. And that's exactly what we had to. In fact, technically, Max did a 4 stop because they all pit under the safety car. Of course, they all did 3 stops in the end, and Max did a 4. But in reality, without that, we'd have seen 2 and 3 stops throughout the whole race. But I don't know. I just feel like it was missing something. And I'm not the sort of person that has to see changes for the lead and whatever, because I'm now a Piastri fan. I was personally happy to see Piastri winning, so that didn't detract it from it for me. I just feel like it was maybe missing a sort of almost hero story. I mean, obviously we had Hulkenberg get an amazing result. He was the sort of hero of the race, but there was still no we used to have Perez in a Sauber back in the day, dropping a 1 stop out of nowhere. Do you know what I mean? And he was like, what is bro doing? Like, what is his strategy? And I just feel like there was just something, and I really can't put my finger on it other than there was no real hero story missing from that race that just made it not quite a banger for me. But it was a really good race. It was really entertaining. The Sky commentators were talking about in the race, like we don't really know how it's going to shake out here, and then that's what makes racing entertaining. That's what makes you watch till the end and not fall asleep during the race, because you genuinely go, what? How is this going to work? I think Max versus the McLarens was really exciting. Him sort of coming back to them. McLaren's having to push to try and make that work. They're having to make Norris pit first to make sure Max didn't undercut, and there was definitely some exciting moments there. And honestly, for me, it probably is I agree, 7.5, maybe even 8 out of 10. It's not a bad race. It just had all the ingredients to be like a 9 or a 10. It just didn't have that amazing hero. So I suppose we didn't have any real competitors starting from the back. We didn't have any rain. I guess there wasn't that final cherry on the cake that made the race a complete banger. For Spain, as you say, for Spain, this was a banger, because Spain is often
not necessarily like rain changes though, but I was more thinking like if the cars were able to follow closer, if we had Lando and Piastri fighting for the win as well, like side by side kind of action. For me, that is like pretty much I think of me going into like next race weekend. What do I want from a race? That's almost like a 9, 10 out of 10 in terms of different strategies, fights for the wins, overtaken everywhere, controversy and drama, and debatable stewards' decisions. I mean, literally, as you said, no rain or whatever, fine. But I feel like maybe you would change your opinion on the kind of hero story if we had Lando and Oscar kind of scrapping at it as well for that extra bit of tension that we obviously didn't have, because Norris in the end, in his interview, did say as soon as he got closer, about 2 seconds to Piastri, Dirty Air just killed him. He said that in Lando's words, there were maybe a few hundredths, a tenth between them, like all race. They were very similar pace. But that 10th immediately was lost once he got to about 2 seconds. So that's why we ultimately couldn't see that. So on that note of Lando, by the way, and this is kind of going back to the Verstappen thing, but I don't know if you heard. Do you hear the cooldown room at the end? I always love the cooldown room.
Oh, this was so good.
So I was watching with my girlfriend Carla. We both of us burst out laughing when he said, "I've seen that move before," and then it was just a pause. He was like, Yeah, on Mario Kart. It was just
so good, so good. I was proper creasing at that, like, and because I was with my girlfriend as well, but she wasn't really paying attention. She was playing, I don't know, solitaire or something. So she didn't hear it. And I was like, "Oh, did you hear that?" She was like, "No, what?" I was like, and I explained it, and she didn't really get it. But I was like, "That is so good." And I like that the Sky commentators picked up as well, because it was genuinely, because obviously Lando is quite chummy with Max. Like, he doesn't normally criticize Max, because they're pretty good mates. So the fact he dropped that, and what I liked about it is it wasn't like, he didn't look at it and go, "Oh, that's horrible, that's dirty," the sort of thing that me and you might say, because that's our jobs. Obviously, they're never going to say that because they're professionals. What I liked about it is it was criticism while being positive and funny. Yeah. I'm not Lando's biggest fan at the moment, but I did really like that comment. It was so smart to be like, "Oh yeah, I've done that before." In Mario Kart, like, it's such a good put down while also being comical and lighthearted. It was so good. It was amazing. But do you know what? I want to move on to driver of the day though, because we've spoken, we've mentioned a lot of these sort of drivers, and I think they're all contenders. People we've mentioned. I think Piastri has to be a shoe-in. That qualifying lap was unreal. Well, he put 2/10 on Lando's head. That's probably the biggest gap between them, while they've both actually, done reasonable laps this season. That was unreal. And then just had a perfect race. I mean, what we've seen previously from Piastri was the soft tyres have worn down quicker than Lando's, but then you put him on a harder set of tyres, he then tends to be able to match Lando. That's been the trend so far this season. Not by much, but you lose a couple of seconds at the end of a soft stint. Did happen today, not at all. In fact, it looked like Piastri was quicker at the end of the soft stint today. It was perfection from Piastri. But that's a bit boring, isn't it? You can't, even though I'm a Piastri fan, you can't pick Piastri. Hulkenberg is a very obvious shoe-in. Very obvious shoe-in. P5 and a Sauber? Excuse me? Like, what is that? Also not going to pick him. Too obvious. It should be Hulkenberg, but I'm not going to pick him. I'm going to pick someone else. Just to throw a spanner in the works. Fernando Alonso. And you'll be happy about this, George, when you asked about a contract in hand.
No, Alonso's mid. What do you mean you can't say that?
Right. Alonso, as we know, Alonso is Alonso's biggest fan, right? He loves going on about, "I'm the most unlucky driver. Oh, that was such a great move. Oh, that was the best lap of my life." Like, he loves it. But today, he was on one, wasn't he? Like, the amount of outside moves he did at turn 3, which is entirely possible when the other car's in dirty air. Like, it's not the most outrageous thing you've ever seen, but he was the only one to really consistently do it. He got back into the point despite having a bit of a struggle race and stuff, and he was just on one, just talking over the radio. Like, I just really enjoyed him. His home Grand Prix as well. Like, it wasn't really going his way, but he just went for it in the race. He just turned up today and went, "I'm going to have some fun today. I'm just going to go for some moves. I'm going to have some fun. Let's have it." And I loved it. I really did. So, home hero, Fernando Alonso, P9. I'm happy with that. He thoroughly deserves that. Go on, who's your driver today?
That's fair. He did pull off some mega overtakes, and quite outrageous that is the first race that he's scored points, because even you can admit in your quest to call him mid previously, he has been horrendously unlucky this season.
Yeah, yes.
He clearly should have had points before today. Monaco, he should have had P6, I think. So yeah, very, very, very unfortunate. Really pleased, not just as an Aston fan as well, but just pleased to see Alonso get points finally. My driver,
he can only score points though. He can only score points though, can't he? When Stroll doesn't race. If Stroll was there, Stroll would have been on the podium. Easy. Oh, God, sorry.
That's a good. No. So it's a good point. Actually, we'll build on that, because yeah, a bit disappointed with the team. It's transpired that Lance has had this issue with his wrist for like 6 weeks now. I think it's a recurring issue before, when he missed the Sakir Grand Prix in 22 when Hulkenberg replaced him. I believe it's a similar thing to that, or built off of it. So the fact that we were left without a driver with just one driving is I mean, if I'm looking from the outside, I say that's borderline laughable. I don't think there's ever a situation where you should be seriously risking only having one driver in the race, particularly given where Aston's performance are. Points are clearly hard to come by. I think we fell behind Kick Sauber. So the Aston fell behind Kick Sauber after today. So obviously, it's. Yeah, if you had another Alonso in that race, finishing P8 or whatever, then that is huge for championship points. So yeah, it's really disappointing to see that, and I hope that, well, you would imagine Drugovich or surely Stroll's not going to make it for the next race, but I guess let's see.
I think on the face of it, it's like borderline like selfish, or like I can't think of the right word, but I do think he just genuinely just tried to power through and realized after quali he couldn't. Again, I always give people the benefit of the doubt. I don't think he just, did it on purpose to shaft the team. Obviously he's not doing that anyway, but like, I think a better team player may have accepted it earlier and gone, let's get someone else in. I'm struggling here for the better of the team. But I think when you're a billionaire with the best one in the world, things go your way. You don't really care about anyone else because you don't have to. The world is your oyster. We live in a money-dominated world. So yeah, on the face of it, it does seem a bit like that. I give him benefit of doubt. I don't think he did it on purpose, but it does smell a bit, doesn't it? Like, if he decided just an hour before, or a few hours before, we could have got someone else in the car. We'd have had a full grid of 20. Instead, we had a $1 million F1 car just sat in the pit lane all race. It kind of sucks, doesn't it? It does kind of suck. But it will be interesting to see what happens in the next race.
I liken it to football because in football, a very, very common theme is top players playing through injuries, and you don't know they're injured. They've got little things going on, and that sometimes they've like pulled a groin muscle or something, and they play on that, and that's obviously commitment to the club. But I feel like when it's one driver in a car and the whole team is behind them, and like it just feels like there's surely got to be some sort of physio doctor like advises against that. They must be able to obviously tell his condition before. I mean, like I'm certainly not going to go to the extent of like saying that's disrespectful or whatever, because ultimately I don't know the conversations behind the scenes. But I would have hoped in a sport like Formula One with the amount of money in it that there would be some type of medical professional to be able to say, yeah, I don't think you should race, mate. I think we need to take the other driver. So yeah, a big shame. But anyway, moving on to my driver of the day, Hulkenberg. Big surprise. I mean, come on, top 5 in a kick Sauber. You said it already. Absolutely outrageous. He pulled off some great overtakes, kicked Sauber, smashed the strategy, took advantage of the safety car, benefited a position from Max's penalty as well at the end. But hey, he got that on merit from being in that position in the first place. Unbelievable. And genuinely, how has this guy got a top 5 in a kick Sauber and never got a podium in his career? Crazy. How?
How have you not mentioned that he overtook Hamilton genuinely on track? I know Hamilton apparently had used tyres, but like, what? He overtook a Ferrari for that position as well. On a track that, okay, it was a bit easier to overtake today because of the tyres, but isn't normally a very easy track to overtake. Like, this was unreal. And what I like about this as well is I was keeping an eye on him through the whole race, because this wasn't a cheese, lucky, safety car, good timing type race result. Not at all. He was looking like he was going to get some points all race and was just chipping away at it. He was looking like maybe the start of the race he was looking like maybe 10th, maybe 9th. Then he was like, okay, suddenly, okay, maybe more like 8th. And then, well, maybe he's actually on for 7th. Do you know what I mean? He was just chipping away at it. It wasn't just a lucky one-off thing. It was a genuine, the whole race, he deserved that result. And as you said, how has this guy not got a podium? I mean, there was a big bottle in Brazil a few years ago, of course, that cost him. But this Hulkenberg is a genuinely great driver, and he finally was able to show it today. And what I find interesting is the day he was able to show it was a day that the tyres were properly, mixed up. That there wasn't everyone's going to do a one stop. All that really matters is how quick is your car. The driver comes into it a bit, but realistically can't do anything. When the tyres wear that much, the driver can make a much bigger difference. If they're able to really nurse their tyres, it makes a massive difference on a day like today. And this is the day that he gets the P5 in a Sauber. I mean, that's absolute. He got 10 points from that. Am I right in thinking that the team has now got 15 total points? No, 16 total points. So they had 6 before this race. They've now got 16. One massive performance from one driver. That performance alone has earned his salary for the entire season. Not that he's probably on very much at Sauber, but still, it's probably earned him his whole season salary from that one race. That is why you sign someone like Nico Hulkenberg and not 2 rookies.
Oh, yeah, justifies why, obviously, he's been retained for Audi. Huge. I think, look, fairly short and sweet segment on the Grand Prix today, despite a lot of talking points, but also big news in our gaming world as well. Viewers and listeners will be maybe aware that F1 25 released this week, a few days ago at the time of recording. And I want to talk about that because I watching the Grand Prix today and driving Creator Series 100% full race distance league race we do as creators yesterday. So many similarities, dirty air that we were really struggling with in the corners, and I'm feeling good. I got I'm jumping in the rig, I'm getting behind the wheel, and I got a big smile on my face playing it. I know viewers of both our communities share the same opinions. I think at the moment it's got the highest. It's the highest reviewed F1 game on Steam since 2020. I believe I'm right in saying.
Wow.
It's unbelievable how well it's doing, and I'm also not surprised when you play the game and you see the new features and what's been invested into it. It's fantastic. I'm really enjoying it. Alex, what's been your experience so far? Because I know you've had a chance to play a lot of different things in there as well.
Yeah. I mean, I've played 35.8 hours on the game. So that's for me, that's a lot of hours already. Bear in mind, I've only had access for 10 days or something. So, massive step forward year on year. I mean, I've released 5 reviews this week on my gaming channel. Alex Gillen Game, if anyone want to watch any of those, because they will go in much more in depth than we'll go into here. But in general, I just think what is key this year is they have made virtually every single decision they've made is the right decision. That doesn't mean it's a perfect game. That doesn't mean that there's certain things we wouldn't like to see in addition to what they've done. But the things they have done and the things they've decided to do, pretty much every single one is the right decision. And honestly, I cannot remember the last time I was able to say that about an EA or Codemasters game. They normally go a direction that you'd go, I wouldn't go that direction. Or they make a dodgy decision that you go, that didn't work out. Or they, there's too many bugs or whatever it may be. It's not a bug-free game, but they've made all the right decisions. I mean, just look at the racing. And I actually, straight after that Creator Series race that you highlighted, which we'll go into a bit more detail in a second, I actually went on their Discord and I messaged them in the creator Discord that we've got with them. And I literally said, guys, you've smashed it this year. With the racing, it's regardless of any handling changes or feature changes or whatever else, just the racing, you've smashed it this year. It's a driving game at the end of the day. The dirty air is perfect now. It's genuinely a challenge to get past someone. So when you do, you feel rewarded for it. It's not just a push to pass, easy thing, DRS swapping, no worries. That's not a thing anymore. Dirty air makes it a real challenge, but equally, it's still not quite as much as real life. It's not impossible to follow. It's fine. It's just difficult to get close enough to overtake, and that makes it really fun. Tyre wear being so much higher than last year as well is absolutely awesome. And honestly, the tyre wear is probably similar to what we saw in real life, to be honest, actually, in Spain. Yeah. They were actually really comparable, it seems, tyre wear. Some people were saying that the tyre wear is a bit extreme on certain tracks, but actually for Spain, it was pretty damn close. The tyre warm-up being so slow. I mean, on safety car restarts now, when people are on hard tyres, they are struggling like mad on those tyres. They really, really are. So the warm-up, that's just so much fun now, because you can't just immediately switch tyres on and be like, boom, I'm fast. If you're on hard tyres, someone behind you on soft, you are going to be really struggling to make that work. So it's just all round. It's just an absolute, the racing is just so much better now. And the handling as well is improved in just about every way over 24. I know 24 was a low bar, but they've taken a step forward in pretty much every way of handling. I think force feedback would be about the only thing that I would criticise in terms of things they've changed since 24. So it's just, I'm tempted to say it's a banger of a game, because compared to 24, it's night and day. They've made every right decision. It's a massive step forward 24. Compared to 23, there's still certain elements of 23 that I would like to take, and there's still certain things that I would like them to do on 25 that they haven't done. But as I said, every decision that they have actively made, they have made the right decision, and I cannot remember the last time I said that about an F1 game. So, yeah, Creator Series was a banger. We're in for a good year. The racing, it's fun to drive. The racing is amazing. Long live F1 25.
You've obviously waxed lyrical there and listed a load of positives, and I agree on every single point as well. I think what I do want to say, I guess, to viewers and listeners, is that we're not saying it's perfect. We know that there are issues with the handling still in small areas, tires as well. While tire wear is significantly improved, forcing more two stops and giving us more variational strategies, which fundamentally is a huge positive. I know from speaking with Brendan Lee that basically every single tire around every single track overheats. Even if the game doesn't tell you it's overheating, it's overheating. So there's a bit of an issue there, and I say issue, it's everyone has it. So ultimately it's a level playing field. But yeah, there's things like that which aren't perfect. Obviously, there are bugs and things that I've encountered too. But I completely agree. It's unreal. I mean, F124 was setting records for how bad the sales were, how bad the reviews were, how many people were like leaving the game and not coming back. And as a content creator, it's such a breath of fresh air to see not only how universally well received F125 is, but also just how fun it is to play. And I'll be honest, Alex, I don't really care about small issues in handling if I just enjoy to drive it. Simple as that. Like I'm not expecting to get iRacing level handling. You know, I want a game where I'm not drifting around every corner, or I'm not full wheel up around every corner to get all the time out of it. I just want a normal, fairly normal a way of driving, and something that is fun and semi-realistic. So again, we touched on it then. The dirty air, huge, like really, really massive addition. And I think we'll kind of lead into Creator Series now, because this is the point I wanted to make, was that in Creator Series yesterday, so again, for viewers and listeners, 100% race distance, I boxed later than other drivers around me on the first stint, or after the first stint, meaning that I had the best tyres on the second stint, but I could not get past way older medium tyres in front of me, just because of how bad dirty air was in Sector 2 and also Sector 3 leading onto the main straight. Obviously, we raced at Spain as well, for context. So huge positive. It almost sounds like I'm complaining saying that, but if anything, I was just like, you know what? Now I know that. I'll change my strategy next time. It just wasn't the right call. Simple. You know, now we know dirty air is a killer at Spain. There was the wrong decision. So I love to see that there is more realism. And before I pass over to you to touch on that, Alex, I just want to say, off the top of my head right now, I might get this slightly wrong, but time trials, world record, Spain. Do you know what it is, Alex?
No, I don't. Why? Is it close to real life?
It's the last time I checked was an 11.5. It might be an 11.4. Oscar Piastri's pole position time Saturday, 11.5. I'm not saying they're identical. Clearly, I'm obviously not going to say that. But clearly, coming from 24, where we were like 2 seconds a lap quicker than real life sometimes, it was ridiculous. It's clearly a massive indication of the right way forward the game has gone, because at least now we are seeing comparable times. I can't go into a session and just smash the pole time that we've just watched on an IRL Grand Prix weekend, because they are professional drivers and they are driving quick. Now it's genuinely a challenge, because the cars are at least more realistic to real life timing. So there you go, Alex. A lot of stuff I've run through, but handing over the reins to you on that.
I don't care. I don't care that the times are close to real life. Because actually, you almost contradict yourself a little bit there, because I agree with what you said earlier on. I don't think it has to be realistic. Look, I'm an iRacing enjoyer. I really like iRacing. I think it's the best sim. I do like to race sims. I think it's good fun, especially with the insane learning curve that seems to go on forever. You're always learning and that sort of thing, because it is what it is.
Yeah.
But my favourite game has always been the F1 games, at least since Greco was doing the handling, since from 2015-ish up until 23. Because although it wasn't a sim, it wasn't realistic, it felt nice to drive. Like, it was fun. You shouldn't be able to push that hard. You shouldn't be able to do this, shouldn't be able to do that. But, like, overall, it was just fun to drive. And I wouldn't enjoy Mario Kart. There's limits to it. But I think F1 in the past has always nailed this sort of simcade balance, which is an incredibly hard balance to get. So personally, I never really care. Like, obviously, if I had a choice, I would choose the lap times to be as close as possible to real life. If there are 2 seconds a lap quicker, but the game feels amazing, I don't care. I don't care. I know people like to moan about that sort of thing. Personally, I don't care. I am happy to see the times close to real life, but I far bigger priority is that it feels nice. And this wouldn't be the handling model I would choose. I would still choose an F123 handling model with some improvements. But it's now got to the point where it's back to what it used to be. It's a simcade that's not realistic in a handful of ways, but it's just fun to drive, and it just is. The more laps I've done, and in fact, my first impressions of the handling in F1 25 was, here we go again. It's just 24 with some very minor tweaks. Oh, God's sake. And that was genuinely, I was a bit annoyed. The first night playing it, I was like, I went to bed annoyed that night. And then every day I've played it, it's just grown on me. I've gone, oh, actually, no, okay, it's not realistic. It's not the handling model I would choose, but actually, I was like, I seem to be enjoying myself here. I thought I was going to be annoyed with this year's handling model, but no, I seem to be enjoying myself. So it's not what I choose, but it is overall fun enough. And yeah, just going back to Creator Series, like you said, GB, obviously, spoilers, this is going to go out before my highlights go out on YouTube. So if you haven't seen that yet, I would highly recommend going and watching it. GB's VOD maybe, or my YouTube video, or my VOD, because it was a banger race and it is worth watching. But it was really interesting. It was really different. And again, spoilers, just like you said, GB, I was a bit shafted by a late safety car. I was leading the race. I was not able to pit because the safety car came out at the perfectly wrong time for me. Everybody behind me was able to pit. And I was like, that's it. On last year's game, not even just last year's, on the last 5 games, I would have finished probably about 8th or 10th because overtaking was so easy. You could follow so closely. Tyres are everything. And honestly, that was the case last year. That was the meta. That's what Ben Daly, Team Marduk, was nailing on last year's game, was always save your best tyres to the end. Always. Because in Creator Series in particular, won't get into it, but there's always safety cars, there's often late safety cars. So like, just make sure you got the best tyres. And that's what he did. He would sometimes be like 6th with 10 laps to go, but would often be at least on the podium because he just had the best tyres. That was the meta. Rubbish. I never liked that. And now clearly that is not the case. I had 13 lap older tyres than the people that were behind me. There was a few laps there where I had someone with similar tyres to me behind me, which helped give me a bit of a cushion. Important to mention that. But after a while, I didn't have that buffer anymore, and I was able to hold on for the win, which is just, it was an unbelievable feeling to win that race because I was so annoyed. I was so down in the dumps. Oh, what is this? Like, safety cars absolutely shafted me. This is a joke, yada, 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 all the negativity. The fact I was able to hold on, or even just fight for the win, was unbelievable, and it just shows how much of a step forward we've taken. It's not just all about having the best tyres at the end anymore. It is about strategy. It's about having that track position. It's about being smart with the dirty air, being smart with the battery. It's just so much better. Like that race yesterday was better than any race I had on at any point in F1 24. It was an absolute banger. Go on, GB.
Yeah, you know what's interesting is that what you said is true and not true. Like, it will apply around some tracks, but around others, it is going to be best tyres that will decide it. Because obviously, same as real life, some tracks, dirty air is really effective. Other tracks, it's not, not a huge factor. For example, I would assume Las Vegas is very much not going to be that bad for dirty air, considering, the fact that you'll probably will easily be able to stay within up to the DRS point, and then you've got the massive straight. So yeah, I think we're going to get a really happy blend of F1 24 races. I'm talking Creator Series here because people will slate F1 24 like crazy, but I actually think for Creator Series, I still think it's the best game we've had for Creator Series so far. Maybe that's also testament to the rule changes and things we've implemented in the series, but I think we had so many banger races in 24.
Completely disagree. I think you were quick on 24, so I think that might be...
No.
I don't
genuinely,
know.
I'm looking at it more from like, how many times do we have like massive gaps at the end of the race and stale races with people saying, oh, it's boring, whatever. I'm genuinely not saying it from my own perspective because I only won 3 races. It's not like I was dominant on the game or anything. And yeah, so from my own perspective, it was a lot more fun battling in 24 than previous ones. And I'm not saying every other game was a disaster, because 23 was also great, and we had some great series races there as well, and also before that, 22 as well. I just thought 24 had a really nice blend of that for me, aside from the whole intentional safety car thing. Ignore that.
No, but I think that's why. I think the thing that changed, other than you getting quicker and the handling getting worse for 24, was the intentional safety cars were allowed. They banned hard tyres, but that was almost correcting something within the game. So I think that was almost balanced out by the game. I think the intentional safety cars, because you're talking there about it being, not boring races, not being really strung out. I think the intentional safety cars are what has caused you to like the races on 24, even though you said before that you don't like them.
I'm thinking about it more from when I'm not thinking about it from a safety car perspective. That's what I'm saying is deleting that. Because I'm thinking it more of how many times was I close to cars side by side, having good, respectful battles, creating clips from moments and overtakes, and we'll all have different perceptions on what we think is fun content. Whatever, fine. I'm not going to debate that, but for me personally, the amount of battles and type of racing we were allowed, irrespective of safety cars, because without safety cars, we were still at the front at least. You'd have like top 5 really close together, and strategy sometimes would matter. And unfortunately, ends of races were spoiled by intentional safety cars sometimes. But removing that from the conversation, for me at least, 24 had some really good races for Create Series. And I feel like this game is going to be a really happy blend of what you described for Spain, that type of racing. I'm looking at tracks like Hungary and thinking probably tracks like there with really dirty air is going to be similar. But then also we're going to have probably like Vegas's, which I imagine will be probably some DRS games and similar stuff to what we saw in 24. So it's really exciting. I love that we're sat here now and neither of us know how the races are going to play out. And to be honest, I don't, in 3-4 months time, once we understand the game and the setups and blah, 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 I'm still not sure if we're actually going to know fully what's going to happen in the races. At least in 24, we'd be like, well, if someone's got a 0.3 advantage on pace, it never happened. But if they did, then they're still not able to drive away because of DRS and whatever, right? But 25, we don't know. We literally don't know. Like that, like depending on the circuit circumstances and so many other things, strategies and tire behavior, and it's really cool. So massive W for the game and massive W for Create Series, and I'm looking forward to the next race.
Do you know what's interesting is the only real negativity I've seen for the game. There's always people like anything. The perfect product doesn't exist. There's always people that don't like it for their own personal reasons, whatever. Absolutely fine, but they're clearly in the minority in this game. But other than that, the only real negative comments I see in my YouTube comments about the game seems to be from people that haven't played it. Like the vast majority of comments are people that haven't played it. It's the same old, it's the same every year. The handling looks terrible. It's this, it's that. And it's the same old tired criticism. And don't get me wrong, it can be valid criticism, but I just think if you haven't tried the game, I just checked the positive review percentage on Steam for F125 is 88% at the moment. So the vast majority of people who have played it like it. Us creators who have played it like it. Like, we're not saying it's perfect, but we like it. We're overall really positive about this game, especially compared to 24. And yet those same people are still coming in like, but this, but that. And it's like, guys, you haven't played the game. Like, where's the balance here of going like, I'll take people's word for it. How are they still doing that? I think that's a bit crazy personally. I'm just looking up the percentage of views. It's 74% positive views in the end on F124, but F124 had a very late game surge through 85% discounts. So that probably influenced that. But
wow. Okay. Yeah. No. I was going to say I'm going to say something controversial, and then I'm going to give my ranking for the game. So I think F125 straight off the bat is better than F123, which I got a little bit of stick for on Twitter tweeting, but also got a lot of people in support of that agreeing. F123 I thought was a very good game. I didn't like the low-speed drifting that we were seeing in esports. I thought it was a bit ridiculous. But I'm not talking... I hate the conversation always being on the handling. Handling is really important. Yes, we know that. But there's also a lot more to the game. The graphic step up from dropping old-gen consoles this game is astronomical, in my opinion. I mean, it's such a stunning game to just look at when you're watching a stream or a video or playing it yourself. It's awesome. And then you look at the other features they've done, like My Team 2.0 and bringing in like a new like multiplayer mode, and they've clearly put more effort into the right areas that we were requesting before. So I am going to rank only the modern F1 game. So I'm ruling out 20 and 21 because that's old gen. As in, I'm talking car generation. So 22 being the start of the generation. 4 games, I genuinely would go 25, 23, 24, 22. Thoughts?
I agree. I swapped the last two. I do think 25 is above 23. I personally would choose the handling of 23. But as you said, a game is more than just handling. And the fact that the racing itself is so much better than we've ever had before on the F1 games, I think that puts 25 above, plus the whole new career modes and stuff, and lots of different things. So I agree, 25 top, 23 second. I'd put 22 next because I didn't mind the handling of 22, and again, it's very handling orientated, but 22, everyone just hated the lack of traction in that game, and but I didn't mind. I enjoyed, because I like it when the games have got skill gap. I've always enjoyed skill gap games when they're super easy and anyone could just come in and get to the top. I know that's a bit extreme for even 24. That's not that easy to do, but I like games like Rocket League where like the skill ceiling is so insane that you play for 100. Like, just to go in on that, what I love about Rocket League is your playtime will be directly correlating with your rank or how good you are at the game. Like, as long as you're, not a child or something. You know what I mean? Like, if you're not, if you're a normal adult, that is it. So if someone in Rocket League who's got 50 hours on the game, all right, so not an insignificant amount of time, plays someone with 100 hours on the game, they will get spanked by the person with 100 hours. If someone's got 500 hours on the game, they will get spanked by someone who's got 1,000 hours on the game. And it is a perfect trend. I love that. I love really high skill ceiling, and I've never been that great at Rocket League. I do some aerials and that's it. I know it's fading out now, but I like Rocket League. I used to like Rocket League a lot. So I like skill gap. I think 22 was good because it had some skill gap. It was a hard game. Yes, it wasn't realistic. So yes, I'm glad they changed the traction for 23, but it had some good skill gap and I enjoyed that. 23 still had some skill gap as well because it was possible to spin, much easier to spin. 24 was just dumbed down in lots of ways. 25 is still dumbed down, but I don't think the handling is that different in terms of skill gap. But now you've got things like the dirty air and the tyres and stuff that now create a different kind of skill gap. It's not just about how fast can I drive the cars. It's about other things. And just to highlight some specific examples, in Creator Series, I was a reserve, I think, for F1 22, was it, or 23? And I would basically, I think my win rate was like 50% or something outrageous. Like, I'd win half the race I turn up to, like, outrageous. I'm nowhere near that anymore because, again, that skill gap was there. I just seemed to be good at the traction for whatever reason on those games, so I was able just to be a little bit above the field in general, and that allowed me to tend to win races. Whereas 24, that was just like wiped out. Like, there wasn't much you could do handling wise without being an esports player to really make a difference. Whereas I think that's back for 25. So I really, really like that about it. But yeah, so just to go back to the point, 25, 23, 22, and then 24. So the worst of the four, I put 24.
Fair enough. I think that's a fair assessment. I can accept that with 22. I hated the handling on that game personally. That, as much as is more than handling, I think the AI that game as well were like ridiculously quick. I remember, if I'm thinking of the right game, they were like insanely fast to the point where,
and they were like like suicidal. They were awful. They were just constantly just trying to murder you. Like, it was so annoying.
Well, I remember tuning into a Yano Otme and my team stream, and obviously an esports driver, when you're watching them drive against AI, you know that they're like clearly going to be far quicker. And I remember Yano, I think it was like Brazil or something, getting absolutely destroyed against 110 AI, and I was like, yeah, I don't want to play this. I'm not as good as this guy. Like, definitely not. So
I just want to say one more thing before we round out, is that because I do agree, the F1 games aren't all about handling, but I think there's often some complaints. I know Arav in particular has complained about this before, to say, like, everyone always goes on about handling, but it's more than handling, and it is more than handling, but it is a driving game.
Yes,
it is. Handling is the most important thing, whether you like it or not, because that is what you do in the game. That is the whole point of the game, is to drive the cars and try and win races. You can add as much fluff as you want around that, around career modes and upgrades and different game modes and, nice graphics and dirty air and tyre wear, whatever else you want to add around it, red flag, safety cars. Driving the car is the core of the game. Handling is the most important thing on any driving game, because it has to be. That is what you're doing. So I agree it's not everything, but it is the most important part, which is why I put 22 above 24, and it's why you do the opposite, because handling is the most important thing. You clearly just didn't enjoy the handling of 22. I didn't mind it. So that's the difference, because it is fundamentally a driving game. I
mean, like AC Evo, very good driving game. Yes, it's limited in its cars, but the only reason I want to mention that is handling and driving the GT cars in that game is brilliant. As far as I'm aware, I think it's the best game there is for GT cars, in terms of the way they drive and how realistic they are. But it doesn't have a humongous player base. It's proof that, yes, handling is the most important. I completely agree. But you need to get the whole package right. It needs more around it. You cannot just deliver, put it this way, F1 25 everyone could be singing from the rooftops about the handling. It could be iRacing standards of handling. It could be incredible. But if they did no My Team and they did nothing else around it, and they just did one bare online mode, it would tank. People wouldn't play it. Like, there needs to be more to it than just handling. So I think that's why a bit of perspective, that's why I've been quite passionate on social, especially Twitter, tweeting about it recently, just because there's a lot of negativity. You said it earlier about people that kind of are almost reviewing and hating on the game where they've not actually played it and given it a fair chance. And that's kind of where I am with it as well. I'm at that point where I'm like, look, I'm going to fight these opinions where people aren't giving what I think are justified means to dislike the game. If you played it and you really hate it for whatever reason you think, fine, whatever. But I think I'm just seeing a bit of negativity trickling over from F1 24. But anyway, I think that rounds up nicely. I think, that was us, guys. Thank you so much for all the viewers and listeners that tune in today. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe on YouTube as well. Don't forget, we're on Spotify and all the popular listening platforms, and we will catch you next week for the next episode.